Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we uncover the hidden stories behind the numbers. And in this filing, we uncovered a bit of a messy situation with some delayed tax reporting and financial restatements. Get ready for a deep dive into dMY Technology Group Inc. Before we dive in, if you love getting straightforward insights from the real financial documents of public companies, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for more. Also, we've built an awesome community on Discord where we discuss these filings in real time. You can find the link in the description below, so come join us. So this isn't your typical quarterly report. It's an amendment to a previous filing, meaning they found something they needed to correct by dMY. Technology Group Inc. filed this amendment to fix their financial statements for the period ending March 31, 2025. The main reason for this restatement is an error in how they accounted for an excise tax. Specifically, it's related to the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. Remember that excise tax we talked about? Well, it turns out they under-accrued it when they redeemed some of their Class A common stock back in January 2024. The company had to pay an excise tax of about $420,000 due to repurchasing stock. For a while, they thought this wasn't a big deal because of other tax calculations, but as of the first quarter of 2025, that tax issue became material. This means it was big enough to affect the accuracy of their financial reports. Let's look at the numbers. As of March 31, 2025, their cash on hand was incredibly low at just $524 when they had over $309,000. That's a dramatic drop. Their total current liabilities were about $4 million, which jumped up significantly from nearly $2.8 million at the end of 2024. A big chunk of this is the newly recognized dollars, a tax payable of over $421,000. Now, the accumulated deficit, which is basically the total losses the company has ever incurred, widened considerably. It went from about $6.8 million at the end of 2024 to over $12.5 million by the end of March 2025. This increase reflects the net loss for the quarter and also the restatement adjustment. Looking at their operations for the first 3 months of 2025, they reported a net loss of over $4.5 million. That's a huge jump from the net loss of just over $168,000 in the same period in 2024. Their general and administrative expenses also went up from about $377,000 to over $521,000. This is for things like office space and administrative support. A big reason for the increased loss was the change in fair value of derivative warrant liabilities. This number swung from zero in the first quarter of 2024 to a negative $4.3 million in the first quarter of 2025. This indicates that the value of their warrants, which are like options to buy their stock, significantly decreased, impacting their reported earnings. In the statement of changes in shareholders' deficit for the 3 months ended March 31, 2025, we see a clear picture of how these losses impacted their equity. The accumulated deficit grew by about $5.6 million. This includes their net loss for the quarter and the adjustments from the restatement. There was also a remeasurement for Class A common stock subject to redemption. This basically means the value of shares that could be bought back by the company changed. It added over $524,000 to the deficit. When we look at where the cash went, they used about $773,000 in operating activities. This is a big change from the first quarter of 2024 when they only used around $60,000. In investing activities, they deposited about $150,000 into their trust account for an extension. Remember, these SPACs or special purpose acquisition companies often have a time limit to find a business to merge with, and they use money to extend that deadline. Their net change in cash for the quarter was a negative $308,000. This means they spent more cash than they brought in for their operating activities. So what is dMY Technology Group Inc.? They are a blank check company, meaning they were formed to find and merge with another company. They hadn't started any real business operations as of March 31, 2025. They were in the process of searching for a business combination. Most of their money is held in a trust account. Initially, this money was invested in short-term government securities, but in March 2025, they moved it into an interest-bearing bank deposit account. This was likely to avoid being considered an unregistered investment company and to reduce risk. A key part of their accounting involves estimating the fair value of things like warrants, which are basically options. They use a three-tiered system called the fair value hierarchy to categorize these measurements. Level 1 is based on easily observable observable market prices. Level 2 uses other observable inputs, and level 3 relies on unobservable inputs, where the company has to make more assumptions. As of March 31, 2025, their derivative warrant liabilities for public warrants were valued at about $3 million. These are considered level 2 measurements. The private warrants, on the other hand, were valued at about $2.7 million, but these are classified as level 3 measurements because their fair value is based on less observable inputs like the Black-Scholes model and Monte Carlo simulations. This section details the restatement we've been talking about. They identified that error in recognizing that excise tax for stock redemptions. And as we saw, the impact was pretty significant, increasing their total liabilities and their accumulated deficit. The restated balance sheet shows total liabilities of over $12.9 million. The accumulated deficit also increased by over $421,000. Now let's touch on the risks. They mention the usual economic and geopolitical uncertainties like inflation and international conflicts. They also highlight the fact that they've identified material weaknesses in their internal controls. These weaknesses could mess with their ability to report their financial results accurately and on time. One weakness relates to how they handle non-routine transactions, and another is specifically about that confusing excise tax reporting. It shows they need to improve their processes for tracking new tax laws and making sure everything is reported correctly. Scroll checks and balances check list. Key. Essentially, they're telling investors that they're working on fixing a few things to make sure their financial reporting is more reliable. They're adding more checks and reviews to their processes, and working to improve how they handle complex tax issues. So what's the story here? dMY Technology Group is a SPAC that's still trying to find its target company. Their financial results for this quarter were significantly impacted by a restatement due to tax reporting errors. The company has very little cash on hand and a growing accumulated deficit. The fact that they've identified material weaknesses in their internal controls, especially concerning tax reporting, is a red flag. This suggests potential issues in financial management and oversight. While they are taking steps to fix these issues, it will take time to see if these changes are effective. The company's future success hinges entirely on completing a business combination, and until then it faces significant liquidity risks. For investors, this report signals a high level of uncertainty and a need for careful monitoring of their progress in finding a merger partner and addressing their internal control deficiencies. Alright, that's our breakdown of dMY Technology Group's latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.